Hey guys, this is Jaime Resendiz with Echo Real Estate Advisors. I know we've already covered Remine in the past, and that's a video that I released a few days ago in which I went over Remine, the very basics of it, how to navigate, what certain information is provided, what is not, and provided a bit of an introduction into Remine, as a lot of realtors out there are still new to it. And in light of that video, I actually received a considerable amount of questions over a comment that I made, which was about Facebook marketing. The question is, it was asked in several forms, but essentially the question was boiled down to, how do you market on Facebook? So I mentioned that there was capabilities to use the information provided on Remine to market on Facebook. And I didn't necessarily cover it in that video. I just made a comment about it. So as I was re-recording the Remine section in my Facebook marketing course for realtors, I thought, well, let me just, since it's essentially becoming a mini course in the within the Facebook course that I have, I thought, well, let me just take a quick break and really elaborate on what I was talking about. In the previous video, I talked about direct mail. It's very straightforward. You have the information. You can drill down to the properties that you want to market, giving some sell indicators, which Remine takes a lot. It provides an algorithm, or uses an algorithm, to determine what property is more likely to sell within the next 12 months, within the next 24 months. And so I talked about that. And then I talked about door knocking. That was another value that you could derive from the information being provided to you. I didn't cover the last two applications, direct applications with Remine independent of Facebook, which is calling and texting. In the Pro plan, which is $199 a month, in the Pro plan, you actually get contact information over the properties that you're tracking. Now, what's important to note here is not every single property is going to have contact information. Only if Remine is able to find it in a public forum. I don't necessarily understand all of the intricacies behind that, but what I've noticed is that some of these properties don't have contact information, but a good amount of them do. And it'll provide you the phone, it'll provide you an email, as many as it can find associated to that property, associated to the owners. Now, you could, if you're using the Pro version, you could just take that information and straight cold call them or text them, as long as they're on the do not call list. As long as they're off of the do not call list. Of course, then it's free game per se, and you're able to do it. But of course, be sure that you're respecting the law, and if they're on the do not call list, then you're of course not calling them. That's a strategy. You could do a text campaign if you're using Lion Desk, which I do. It's a way to convert people, or just get them on a drip campaign, and then they can opt off if they choose to. Or they could just respond to how they're going to respond. Now, that's a strategy, since you have their contact information. If you have their email as well, which if that property has the phone information, most likely it will have the email information as well. So you could do some form of email marketing. Now, be careful with email marketing, because it's going to affect your deliverability if the recipients of the email are getting emails and putting them on the spam folder right away. Essentially, at some point, all of your email is going to end up going to the spam folder, as a considerable amount of people have deemed it to be spam if you're not writing a compelling enough story or a compelling enough providing enough information or value. With email marketing, we can go into the next 3 hours going into email marketing in detail, which I won't. But email marketing does require a process, does require some planning to it, instead of just sending a random email. Hey, do you want to sell your house? Hey, are you looking to buy? Now there has to be a bit more substance to that. So if you are going to use it for email marketing, send a couple per day, send a few per day, and don't go out and try to send 100 emails per day, or just mass market the area that you're farming. So those are two additional things that are more viable with your pro account, considering it's $199 and that information is readily available to you. With the other plans, I believe there's 3 other plans, and I don't necessarily know their pricing. But I do know that for the contact information, like their phone number and email, they do charge $3 per. Which means if the property does have contact information, that phone and email, they're going to charge you $3 to get that. So it quickly becomes unfeasible. I think that's a word. It just is not feasible from a cost perspective to continue on those other plans, considering that they're going to charge you $3 per property for that contact information. So for me, it makes sense to use the pro account, have access to all the properties, have access to the contact information, and ultimately be able to use the Facebook marketing, which I promise I will get to. So I just wanted to cover those quick points that I do see enough value to go ahead and provide it as well. And now we're going to get into the exact how to actually market on Facebook. Okay. All right. So I already have the zip code. It's already uploaded all of the properties within this zip code. I haven't applied any filters to it yet. Let's see if I zoom out. Will it still keep my properties? Great. Okay. This seems like a good amount of information. So I am going to go to the sales score. Now there's several strategies with this. I'm going to go into the most basic one. As I mentioned, I'm creating a mini course within my Facebook course to include Remine and all the strategies behind that. So I'm just going to give you the overview. And I'm only going to highlight, if you saw there, I'm only going to highlight the medium and high sales score properties, which means a medium score is there's a high probability that that property is going to go up for sale within the next 24 months. And if it has a high rating, it has a high probability that it's going to go for sale in the next 12 months. I'm going to hit apply, and it's giving me the results. It's telling me that given that criteria in this zip code, more specifically in the area that I'm seeing, all of these properties have a significant enough indicators that they are going to go up for sale in the next 24 months. So that's super valuable to me. And what I would do at that point is I would track all of those. So it's tracking 508 new opportunities. I would go over to the track tab. I would select all. And what's cool, if you're going to send them mailers, which again, I've covered that in another video, so go ahead and jump over to that one. But you could actually print mailing labels, which you can select the type of layout. It only works with Avery, so be sure that you're getting Avery labels and follow the code that they're listing out here. So you have the ability to print out as well, which is super cool, but for this example we're not going to do that. What's important for me at this point is that I download the CSV. So I'm going to put the zip code, and then I'm going to put high, medium. I'm going to save. It's going to take a few seconds to get the download. It wasn't that large, so I do expect to get this notification rather quickly. Okay, instead of watching paint dry, I'll go into another quick note. I've been doing split testing already on a lot of my ads, and what I've been split testing has been high versus medium scores. And in addition to that, I've been split testing. As soon as I download the entire CSV file, I go in there and I bifurcate the homes that are highly likely to sell, and I would run an ad campaign just on the list of high properties, and then I would also run a campaign on the homes that have a medium self score. There it goes, to give me a good idea of, you know, where's my dollar going to be maximized. So I bifurcate in that respect, but I also bifurcate the absentee properties. So you're going to see on the download that you have that capability of seeing which are owner occupied and which are not, because there's a different message that needs to go to each one of them. And since you get the mailing list of the actual owners, there's a very similar to the mail strategy that I covered in the other video. You want to craft that message. I'm gonna have to gray all this out or blur this out, but you're gonna want to craft that message from the homeowner perspective, and essentially they're investors at that point and they're renting out their property. You're gonna want to provide an ad that's going to be of value to them, which really speaks to the investors. A message like, hey, is it time for you to cash out on your investment? Something similar to that. And since you have their mailing address, when you're creating the custom audience on Facebook, you're able to do that. Now, for the actual people that are inside of that property, that are the renters, like, hey, are you tired of renting? Or something to that effect. And you are able to bifurcate that and create a custom audience as well. So that I strongly encourage you to do right off the bat. Differentiate between the absentee owners and the actual owner occupied, and you'll be able to see that. Where are we? Here we go. Absentee. It tells you no. So if it's telling you that if it's not an absentee, that means the homeowner is there. This is telling you that there actually is an occupant there. So you would bifurcate those. And you make sure that what I do is I keep everything on the same sheet. Copy. Oops, not copy and copy. It's copy and paste. Then I would label it 75019 and high, medium, And so absentee no, so that means homeowner. Well, I put homestead instead. Oops. It works better if you don't screw it up, right? So I'll take those out. I'll try it again. Copy. And then I'm going to delete all of this. There we go. And then I would go to the actual absentees. I would open up another tab, and then I would do the same thing. High, medium, and then do absentee. Now that additional separation that I do of high and medium, you could do that from the very moment that you collect the information. So when you're doing the search, you could highlight just the high and you would have that separated out. I prefer to do both. That way I have one pull from the system as opposed to two. And then it's easier for me to manipulate it here on Excel than it is doing it the other way around. So I would have 4 tabs here. I would have, since I'm testing the high and the medium, and you don't have to test it if you don't want to run all of the ads that I'm running, or that you could run, which essentially would be 4, then don't do it. But I prefer to do it this way. And if you're going to target the homeowners, be sure that you're using, just so you see it, be sure that you're using the mailing address. But that only applies to the people that are absentee. So in this case, if they are absentee, it doesn't make sense for you to send it to the property address or upload on the property based off of the property address. It makes sense for you to put it on the mailing address. So just be sure that that happens. Now I spent a considerable amount of time setting it up. And explaining through that. Let's do an actual upload because that's what you wanted to see. I'm assuming that you already know how to get to this section, to your ads manager. If you don't, sign up for the course and you will. So there's my shameless plug. Okay, now you're going to go to assets. You're going to go to audiences. And here's some audiences that I have right now. You're going to go to custom audience. Alright, and now how do you want to create this audience? You're going to click here. I'm not going to go into the others because this video is long enough. You're going to go to customer file, and you're going to go to add customers from your own file or copy and paste data. It's going to ask you, what is the data source? Where did you get this information? There's 3 options. You collected it directly from them, which you didn't if you're using this file. From customers and partners, again, it's asking you, hey, did you collect this information and input it into your CRM and also collected some other data points from partners? That's also not the case in this scenario, so we do want to be authentic in what we're doing. So I'm going to put from partners. Now you could upload a file, but I don't see it as the most efficient way of doing it, so I just do copy and paste. Now there is a bit of prep work that needs to happen on your actual file. And this is how I prep it. Let's see, absentee. Okay, if I was doing the homestead, which means people that actually live in the property, I'm going to use the property address, I'm going to use the property city, and the property state and zip. the information or the data points that Facebook is going to collect is over here, or what they're able to collect, and they're able to match up. So if you have the person's date of birth, you have their year of birth, their gender, their age, that information, then you can upload it here. If you have their email, you could do an email list. But in this list, you're not going to have anything outside of the address and the first and last name, which is more than plenty to create a custom audience. So what you're going to want to do is start deleting some columns. You're going to end up with 5 columns, if I'm not mistaken. So the property address, it doesn't ask for the actual address. I'm going to delete that. To help Facebook out, and so it doesn't have to guess, I actually name the columns the same as they're telling us to name them. So state and Providence, I put state, Providence, province, province, province. Oops, it'd help if I put it on the right. Province. It's asking for the city. It's asking for the zip, postal code. Facebook isn't going to collect that, so we're going to do away with it. We don't care about the mailing address because these are owner occupied, or I guess technically you could use this since it should be the same, but for our purposes, we're not going to do that. Then you have the owner name, which it has the entire name, first and last, or last and first. Facebook isn't going to collect that. They're asking for the first name and the last name. So there's 2 columns. Now Remine has already done that work for us. So they have the owner first name and owner middle name and owner last name. We're going to get rid of the middle name. Now, having split test owner 1 and owner 2, I haven't seen too much of a difference if I only do the owner 1 versus the owner 2. And just by numbers, more are going to have at least 1 owner versus 2 owners. So I'm not too concerned about owner 2 at this point, or matching that up as a custom audience. Owner last name. And there's the 5 columns that you're going to be importing. Now I said I was going to match up the headers, so let's do that. First name, last name. Okay. What else? That's it. Now you're going to go Control A, get all that information, Control C, then Control V, and now we'll open this back up. And now I have all your information input. Be sure that you're importing or pasting the column headers. It's going to help Facebook identify it, and if it doesn't, then it's going to give you an error. 75019 is the zip code. In this case, I'm going to do Carpel. Oh no, let's just keep the zip code. And we're going to do high, medium, Homestead. That's how you spell medium. Homestead. Then we're going to go to next. As you can see, Facebook found the correct columns. Now we need to confirm them. That is the city. You are correct. That is the state. That is our zip. That is our first name. And that is our last name. So it was based on the columns that you provided. It kept the header and it essentially imported it correctly. Now you needed to assign the actual tags, but that's why the prep work over here is so important, and it makes it that much easier You could do the file import as well, but I just find it considerably faster this way. Then we're going to upload and close. It's going to tell us all these rows were uploaded, which 372 matches up. At this point, you can create a lookalike audience, which I do, but for this purposes, for the purposes that we're looking for, not at this point. So we're going to end it there, and you see that it's updating an audience right here. It's going to take a few minutes for it to fully import. Once it's ready to go, it's ready. You can create your ad at this point. You don't have to wait for it to get ready or for it to confirm that everything has been imported. It'll do it on its own in several minutes / hours, depending on the size of your file. But that is how you create a custom audience using Remine's information, and then you just go and run the ad that you were thinking about running. On your ad set, you pull that custom audience that you have created at this point, which that's the name of it. You just pull that and you run that specific ad. So I hope that this has been helpful. I know that I got bombarded with quite a few questions over how to actually do that from a Facebook perspective. And that's how you do it. Again, I highly encourage you to go down the pro option, not because I'm trying to sell you anything, because I don't have, I'm not Remine's rep or anything. I just highly encourage you to do the pro version because it's going to provide you a lot more contact information. It's going to provide free contact information, and it's going to provide you just so much more. And those 10,000 properties does help considerably. The step down version, I believe, is 500 properties that you can track. Now, something pretty cool, once you get the farm that you're looking for, is you're able to, where is it? You get notifications over the properties that you're following. So it'll give you notifications when a property that you're tracking changes status. So if it actually went for sale, then you find that out. If if somebody got written off the deed or was added to the deed, there's been some notification, some update there, then all the updates show here. The reason I don't have any notifications because I just started tracking these. So having more properties to track is super valuable, as you get to see the way that their changes status and everything of the like. So again, that's how you use Remine in a more robust way. We covered direct mail and door knocking in further length on my other video. Calling and texting, know that it's going to work better with your pro account, considering you don't have to pay $3 per property to obtain that information. And same with email marketing. If that is part of your strategy, if that's something that you do at a high level, I encourage you to go ahead and use the information and resources provided to you. Again, this works better with your pro account. And we also went over how to do the custom audiences with Facebook. So I hope that provided some value to you. If there's any questions, feel free to reach out, and always happy to help.